It's interesting that the Arab nations, Sunni Arab nations, see Shiite Iran as a far greater threat to them than Israel ever was. So that, I think, is amazing. One more sign, I guess, of the weakness of the US under Joe Biden. I mean, Russia invading Ukraine and now slowly pushing back the Ukrainian army. This attack, the last year's attack by Hamas on Israel, that was actually backed by Iran as well. The Houthi rebels you mentioned attacking ships in the Red Sea. China threatening to invade Taiwan. It seems that dangerous parts of the world are no longer that scared of the US. It'll say no, but they'll still do it.
Yeah, these global security challenges that you're just enumerating here are on a scale I don't believe we've seen since World War II. Look at the facts. We've got a major war in Europe by an aggressor, Russia, who wants to take Ukraine down and expand into Eastern Europe and take back some of the former Soviet Union territory. That's a fact. It's not disputable. We've got a major war in the Middle East, started by Iran, operationalized all of their proxies, obviously supported the Hamas invasion, and they clearly want to take control of the Middle East region. That's what they're about, and destroy the state of Israel. This is serious threat on their part. And as you mentioned, China has said to us publicly more than once that he told his military forces to be ready to seize and take control of Taiwan by 2027 if the Taiwanese don't voluntarily submit and become a part of mainland China. I think we should accept him at his word and recognize that we could be not at war just in Europe or in the Middle East, but war in one or two places at the same time, like we were in World War II. This is the reality we're facing, and it's a serious one. What we've got to be about here is deterring that war, stopping it, making certain that President Xi sees the capability and the will of the countries in the Indo-Pacific region, military capability and willingness to step up. He sees it, understands it, so do his generals, and the cost is going to be too great. They don't want to take the chance that they could lose. That's how we held back the Soviet Union during the Cold War, just based on that reality alone. But we're not there. When they look, I think they see vulnerability in terms of military capability in the region. The fact is, my president wants to compete with China, but he's losing a competition.
Yes, they're only seeing signs of weakness. America fleeing Afghanistan, the West wavering in its support for Ukraine, which is now on the back foot. But speaking of that wider picture now, our government has just announced a big change in our strategy for developing our military because it has seen these big changes. But the catch here, General, is that despite saying we won't have an army ready for war for another 10 years, despite the fact that it says we won't get much warning now, despite the fact it says the security situation has worsened considerably over the last 12 months, it's not going to spend that much more, $1.5 billion a year for the next 4 years more. And how, I mean, what are we going to do? I mean, how much time have we actually got to prepare for a war that our own defense minister says our army won't be prepared to fight for another decade?
Yeah. The government's got to wake up and see the facts for what they really are. Look what Japan has done. They've almost doubled their budget. And they see the reality and the writing on the wall, so to speak. And they're making, and you know, Japan has been, because of the World War II experience, has been a very passive country in terms of its military. So it's a major cultural shift. Two different governments, in terms of their political views, have come to the same conclusion in Japan. This is a serious threat, and we've got to step up. And here's something else that our audience here may not realize. Japan is concerned about Russia and China and Ukraine winning. And so much so that the number 3 nation in the world that provides aid to Ukraine after the United States, after the United Kingdom, is Japan. And they're not even in Europe, obviously. Why are they doing that? Because they see if Russia wins in Ukraine, so does China, and it incentivizes China to take the United States on our allies in the Pacific, much as Russia is doing in Europe. And Japan has awoken. They see the threat for what it is. South Korea, the same way. And I think the government in Australia has got to see it for what it is.
Yes, but we won't get the first of those nuclear submarines for a decade. I mean, we just got to hope that China is not going to do anything. I mean, what a strategy. General Jack Keane, always insightful to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, great talking to you, Andrew, as always. Thank you.
After the break, just in, dramatic footage of a carjacking.